You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
I get asked all the time what to do. New counselors say, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to plan next? How do I run this group? How do I teach this lesson? And I know how you feel. I mean, this profession doesn't really come with an instruction manual, and we definitely didn't learn all of this in grad school. So over the years, I've developed curriculum plans and resources to support students, and those are the things that you'll see, in my TPT store and on my blog, and that's how I'd love serving you guys. But I decided I needed something more too. I wanted to really support you guys more and build an awesome community. So that's why I created Impact, my school counselor membership program. So each month, our members receive monthly curriculum plans, ready-to-download resources, and video implementation guides. So they have everything they need to best support students and to make their counseling lives just a little bit easier. In addition, I deliver quarterly live professional development trainings. We have a fun and active Facebook group where we all hang out and collaborate and do fun giveaways and challenges. An essential resource library full of resources that you may need all year long, like a grief group or divorce discussion cards. And the best part, our community live chats. So we do Facebook Live and Zoom calls every month where we all get together, kind of like a round table, troubleshoot tough cases, pick each other's brains. It's a lot of fun. So if this sounds like something you need or something you're interested in, send me a message on Instagram at Bright Futures Counseling or head over to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact. Okay, let's go to the show. Hey there, thanks for listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. So as you know, this month we've been talking about data, and this week I want to talk specifically about attendance data. Now you may not hear me talk about attendance data much, and that's because I haven't really talked about it a lot, but I've been looking to expand my knowledge base around school counseling data, and I'm always trying to learn a little more, and it's an area that I feel like I wish I would have done some more efforts on, and I feel like maybe it's an area that you need to focus on. Now, the thing is, if we want to get our admin's attention and kind of perk their ears up, then you want to start talking about attendance data, grades, and dropout rates. Now, that's especially speaking to the secondary crowd, with the dropout rates and such, but the attendance data, is super important all the way from primary. Now, we know as counselors how important it is for students to have good attendance, right? I heard this statistic one time. Gosh, I wish I could find the source or remember exactly what it was, but it was saying the average number of, I think I learned it in like a school counseling training. Anyways, it was saying the average number of days that students miss that puts them like on the edge of being like a potential attendance problem or like potentially suffering in school. And it was not very many when you start to count in like the half days. And when I was growing up, my parents took school attendance very seriously. I was allowed to miss if I was sick, but they definitely weren't just letting me miss for fun or checking me out early for fun or anything like that. And in turn, I had, really good attendance and really good academics. But, I say I had really good attendance, but that's why this study's kind of funny. So the stat said the number, and I remember counting it up, and I was definitely borderline on that number, which is crazy to me because I felt like I never missed. But when you start adding in a weekday doctor's appointment, had to come in late, or we checked out early for this one event, and then we had a couple sick days, and they add up fast. And like I said, I was kind of like a star student and super supportive family, and I was on that borderline of the statistic. So it really makes you question, these kiddos whose parents aren't as responsive and can't support them as much and don't really know if they're skipping, especially if they're older. It can be really easy for kiddos to fall behind on attendance and in turn have lower academics, which leads to more problems, right? So I don't think I need to tell you how important attendance is. And I know some counselors have really awesome initiatives to boost attendance, and it's almost, there's different struggles. I was going to say it's almost more of a struggle at the younger grades because you really have to work with the parents and their challenges on why they can't get their kids to school because the kids can't really get there on their own. But even when they're older, if they're skipping on their own or something, then it is a motivation thing, or a lot of times kids have a job or other, obligations to their family or outside of school, and it just gets really tricky. But we all know attendance is important, so I want to focus on it in this episode, and I want to chat some more about it in terms of data. And then, as you saw in this episode's title, how we can use that attendance data to form school counseling groups. Now, you may be thinking, what? Use attendance data to form school counseling groups? But yes, we can use attendance data to come up with the services that we're going to provide. Now, you've always heard me talk about data. I like to break it down into two simple terms, and they both start with the SP. So we have services provided. So that's when you're collecting data like the number of class lessons you did, the number of small groups, the number of students that you served. But then there's also student progress data. So that's the other SP, student progress. And that's the data where I'm talking about the results after seeing you as the counselor or after having your counseling services, how the students have changed. Have they improved? Have they not improved? Have they stayed the same? That's the student progress data. So you've always heard me refer to it that way, services provided and student progress. Those are two little things I kind of came up with on my own, and I like framing it that way. However, I was doing some research for this episode, and I was looking over on the ASCA website. Love it over there. Super wealth of knowledge. I'm always looking to expand, my knowledge over there. And they were talking about conceptualizing data in three primary categories: process, perception, and outcome data. So I had heard this before, but I want to just repeat it here so I can share with you guys. Maybe you haven't thought about data this way, but it gets it a little more specific. So let's start with process data. Now I'm going to read this little excerpt from the website, and we will absolutely link to this in the show notes so you can reference it as well. But basically, process data communicates what happened during the intervention and who was impacted. So that could be like the number of students who participated, when the intervention occurred, the duration, frequency, and intensity of the intervention. So some examples of that would be how many students attended a study skills group and how often the group meets, and then the duration of the meetings. So again, I would, in my little terms, calculate this as the services provided. So, how many students are you providing the group to? How often did you meet with the group? And then how long were the group sessions? The second type of data is that perception data, and that's the data that's going to say how students are different because of the school counselor's intervention. So that's what I like to call my student progress data, right? So how have the kiddos changed? Now, I do like that they mentioned here best practices for perception data do not focus on whether the student thinks the time spent together was beneficial or enjoyable. So obviously we hope that they are benefiting, think it's beneficial, and we hope they love it. But that's not the only thing that matters. They go on to say that, the Ask a National model thinks that robust questions for assessing perception data, such as, those I believe questions, I know questions, and I can questions. So what this makes me think of, in a simple example, is like a self-assessment. So we talked a little bit about these in a previous episode. And on my self-assessments, I love to start most of the questions with I know, like I know what a growth mindset is, or I can name 3 coping strategies, or I believe I am a good person. So that would be, measuring like self-esteem, measuring those coping strategies, and measuring growth mindset. And then they also mentioned that they think a Likert scale is the best way to measure this. I agree. It can be as simple as like a yes, no, maybe, which is how I do my self-assessments. So that's the perception data. So far, when you think about these first two types of data, you have the process data and the perception data, or in Rachel terms, the services provided and the student progress data. Same thing. Okay, now, but I do love that they specified that they think it's important to have those I believe, I know, and I can type questions. That's super important. As you go to form your self-assessments, that's something to keep in mind. Now, the third type of data that they highlight that I haven't really talked about as much is outcome data. Now, this is great. So outcome data best highlights the results of your intervention because it relates to how the intervention affected the identified goals, the areas of growth, and the achievement gaps. And they cite some examples like attendance numbers, numbers of students struggling academically, absenteeism, and discipline referrals. So this is great. Oh, discipline referrals is the other one I didn't mention earlier, things that make your counselor or your admin's ears perk up, right? They want to know, how can we get the discipline referrals down? How can we get the attendance up? These are things that are important to them. So back to attendance, like I was talking about, the outcome data is we want to see how that your intervention, so how did your small group, affect attendance? Did your small group really, improve attendance. Now, it's kind of a full circle thing here because it works two ways. So this is saying like, did your small group improve attendance? And then I'm talking about the title of this episode was how to use attendance data to form your small group. So it's kind of like a full circle chicken and egg situation. Like, what do we do first? But they work hand in hand, right? So first off, you want to look at the attendance data you have to figure out if you need to form these school counseling groups. So if you're seeing that, you have a certain demographic or there's enough kids where you could form a group, then go ahead, grab those kids, and you're going to form a group to see if you can improve their attendance. Now, this could be a straight up attendance group where you talk about the importance of going to school. You try to make them have some meaningful connections to teachers, try to identify like a mentor, a buddy, a peer, or reasons that they would want to come to school. You could also help them identify barriers for why they're not coming to school and then come up with a plan. So it could be a very straightforward like attendance group. Or you could try to dig a little deeper and see, well, maybe this group's not coming to school. This group of students isn't coming to school because they have a lot of trauma at home and they're having to, work through some of these things, and that's impacting their attendance. So then you could focus the group more on that. Or maybe there's some students who are being bullied and that's why they don't want to come to school. So maybe you could do some bullying prevention or a self-esteem group. So those are examples of how you can look at the deficits or what's wrong with the attendance data and say, okay, how can we improve this? How can we form groups based on that attendance data? But then you're going to have that outcome data, because based on your group, at the conclusion of your group, this is when you're going to see if your intervention affected the identified goals, areas of growth, and achievement gaps. So based on your group, was it effective? Based on that bullying prevention group, did it help the students improve their attendance because now they feel like they can come to school because the bullying has decreased? Or have you been able to identify barriers to why students can come to school and then help collaborate with them to form solutions for how they can come to school, and now attendance has increased? So these are just some examples of how you could form small groups based on attendance data, and then afterward you're going to see the results of your group. So I usually tell you guys, and we focused on these earlier this month in this podcast series, but I'm like, you want to send your self-assessments to your students to find out how they view their counseling progress. Then you want to send the behavior surveys to parents and teachers to find out how they feel like the counseling has, improved or not improved their students' behavior progress. But then to really wrap it full circle, you also want to have the outcome data. You want to see, like, let's look at the numbers. Did this actually help? Did this help their attendance? Did this help their discipline referrals? Did this help their academics? So I don't want you guys to miss out on this outcome data or to not think about the outcome data in addition to the perception data and the process data, or as I call them, the services provided and the student progress data. We also want to look at the outcome data overall, these big picture ticket items here, the things that our admin really care about and that are really important. Do we see that these things are improving as a result of our counseling services? That's something we want to consider as we're collecting data. I've briefly mentioned them before in the past, but I would love for you guys to try using a data wall to display this information, to display your outcome data and how your program has made big changes. So a data wall is really cool. It's a simple bulletin board you can put up in a high traffic area at your school, like a multi-purpose room, in the hallway, in the front office, outside of your office, wherever it will get eyes on it. Not really for student eyes, but more like parent eyes, teacher eyes, admin eyes. You want people seeing this because it's a great way to talk about not only the services that you provide, but again, how your students have progressed, and you can really showcase all of your data. So I have a cool template for you guys if you're interested in doing one of these. I'll link to it in the show notes. It's a template where you can get the information. I show you how to use the back-end digital forms to get the data, and then how to make the graphs, and then you can display it really beautifully on a bulletin board. So we'll link to that in the show notes if you guys are interested in that. Okay, guys, I hope you found this helpful. Like I said, the article's great. I'll link to it in the show notes, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.